Salve discipuli. We have an excellent treat today. We're going to translate a line from one of my favorites from Marshall. All right, hopefully you'll see why I enjoy Marshall so very much. So it begins, it's a little bit longer, but it begins liber quem recitas meus est, we don't know it's all going to fit there, but meus est sed cum male eum recitas. Told you it's a little bit of a long one, but it's worth it. Incipit esse tus. Okay, let's mark our parts of speech, and then we will divide this up into clauses and translate it that way. All right, so liber, that is a noun. Quem, we have no question mark at the end. We just have a period at the end. So this is a relative pronoun. This is a verb, recitas, meus. This is a possessive pronoun. So it's a pronoun, but it's also an adjective. And est here, that's a verb. Sed, this is a conjunction. Cum, usually we think of cum as a preposition, but here it's acting without an ablative. It's working more as an adverb / its own kind of construction here. We're going to have something called a cum clause that we will talk about. So we'll do an adverb, but we know it's a preposition. It's introducing something else. It can kind of be even thought of as a little bit of a conjunction. So male here is acting as an adverb. Eum, this is a pronoun. Recitas, that's that same verb again. Incipit, another verb. Esse, another verb. And tus, same thing as meus up here. It's a pronoun, also an adjective. It's a possessive pronoun. All right, so where do we draw the line in this sentence to break it up into clauses? Well, when you're first learning Latin, you get these helpful little things here, these little markings in here that we have in English, you know, like commas and periods and semicolons to kind of give you a little bit of a hint. These don't exist in Latin. In fact, early on, spaces don't even really exist. You have no punctuation hardly in Latin. You have these cool things called interpuncts that you'll see every once in a while in inscriptions, but this kind of punctuation doesn't exist in written Latin. Usually it's all kind of smooshed together, which seems like unusual for us. But if that's how you came up learning and writing the language and seeing the language and being able to recognize words like this, it's not as strange. Okay, so where do we break it up? Well, mostly we're going to break it up along the punctuation here, but even within the punctuation, we're going to break it up a little bit more. So, liber quem recitas meus est, sed cum male eum recitas is another one, and incipit esse tus. So within these, we'll write them down and we'll further break them up in their, once we've written them down on their own paper. So we'll start with liber quem recitas meus est. So liber quem recitas meus est. So because we have a relative pronoun right here, we're going to start by breaking this off into its own clause, its own relative clause here. So how far does it go? Generally, it goes until you find a verb. So quem recitas, that's its own clause within this larger clause that we have brought out. So we'll start on the outside of the relative clause, and then we'll translate this, and then we'll come back here. So liber, this is a noun. Let me pull out another piece of paper because We're gonna have to decline because we need practice. Liber, libri. This is a noun. It's a second declension noun. Liber, libri. Almost, that's part of the word for library. Well, if that were an A. Library, because it means book. Or like volume. So this is a second declension. It's a masculine noun. All right, so let's decline it. We have our nominative singular and then our genitive singular. Oops, hello, Cap. Goodbye, Cap. So in the nominative singular, liber, genitive singular, libri. In the dative singular, libro. In the accusative singular, librum. In the ablative singular, libro. So we have book, of book, to for book, book as a direct object, by with book. So if I was going to use it in a sentence, look at the book, the pages of the book. I am to for the book, huh? I am applying bindings to the book. I am writing the book, and I am learning with the book. Okay, so in the plural here, libri, books. In the genitive, librorum, of the books. In the dative, libris, to for the books. In the accusative plural, libros, the books. And in the ablative, libris, by with the books. So liber, that is that's the form that is in our clause, or in our little clause right there. That is the nominative singular form, and it is masculine. Okay, so this is going to be our subject. Nominative singular form, masculine. So book, the book. And then what do we have next? We have meus est. Est, this is a verb. If we refer to the chart that we have, that's a form of sum esse fui futurum. Est is the third person singular form of sum esse. So the book, that is a masculine singular. The book is the subject of the verb here. It's a singular third person. The book is. Okay, and then what we have left on the outside here is meus. Meus is a personal pronoun. Okay, so it's a personal possessive pronoun. And it declines like a first, second adjective. So let's make it, let's make a chart here. Let's decline it fully. You can kind of see the other stuff I wrote on there a long time ago. So we'll get a clean side. Okay, so this is the first person. First person possessive adjective. Okay, so it's meus in the masculine, and we're going to have 3 columns, masculine, feminine, and neuter. On this side is singular, on this side is plural. So we have, oh, if I can get it straight, my goodness, meus, masculine, singular, mea, feminine, singular, meum. Gotta make it a little bit smaller so it'll fit on both sides. All right, so this is our masculine, this is our feminine, and this is our neuter. Okay, our genitive is mei for the masculine, mei for the feminine, and then can be a little bit tricky here. There we go. Mei for, sorry, talking to myself a little bit while I'm trying to talk to you. Mei for the neuter genitive singular. Okay, so it's going to decline like a first second. So in the dative singular, we have meo. And then in the feminine dative singular, again, mei. And then meo in the neuter. In the accusative, meum, meum, meum. And then in the ablative, meo. In the ablative feminine, mea. In the neuter, meo. Okay, so that is the singular. Let's come over here and do the plural. For the plural, mei. For the plural masculine, for the plural feminine, mei. And in the plural neuter, mea. Masculine, feminine, and neuter. Whoop, neuter, there we go. In the genitive, we have meorum, meorum, meorum. In the dative, we have same thing across the board, meis, meis, meis. In the accusative, we have meos, meos, and then mea. Just remember, neuter always repeats the nominative form in, I want to make that clear, that's an E, in the accusative. And then in the ablative, same thing as the dative, meis, meis, meis. Okay, so this is first person possessive adjective, my, of my, to, for my is a direct object, by, with, my, in the singular and in the plural. What do we have here? Meus, that is the nominative singular masculine form. Okay, so it is an adjective, even though it's a personal possessive pronoun adjective, it's still an adjective, so it needs to agree with a noun in gender, number, and case, which it does with liber there. Gender, number, and case. Gender, masculine. Number, singular. And case is neuter, or sorry, nominative. So what do we have here with the two things in the nominative and a form of sumese? We have a predicate nominative. Okay, saying X thing in the nominative is, not is like, but is this other thing in the nominative. So this is, the book is my, the book is my, or mine. Okay, so the book is mine is the independent part of this clause. The dependent part, the relative clause, is quem recitas. Quem is what case in the, for the relative pronoun here. If we look at our chart, quem is the masculine singular accusative form, which works because the antecedent for the relative pronoun here is liber, is book, and book is a masculine. Liber is masculine singular. This is masculine singular. Remember, it does not have to agree in case, but relative pronouns and their antecedents must agree in gender, masculine, masculine. and number, singular, singular. So what is the relative pronoun? It's going to be who or which. This is not a person, so it's not going to be a who, it's going to be a which. It's an inanimate object. So there's quem. And then we have recitas, a verb. So let's decline a verb, shall we? Or not decline, because we don't decline a verb, we conjugate a verb. Dang it. Swear to God, I will never not accidentally say decline when I mean conjugate. I will never not accidentally say conjugate when I mean decline. All right, so we have recito. Recitas comes from recito, recitare, recitavi, recitum, or recitatum. Okay, looking at the first principal part and the second principal part, we know that this is a first conjugation. Ending in O and then ending in ARE, that's a first conjugation verb. Okay, this means to read aloud, or to recite. All right. So what is the stem? We need to look at the second principal part. We ignore our ARE here. Recit, that is our, that's our stem. It is a first conjugation verb, so we are going to need our thematic vowel, which is A. Move these out of the way. So here's our present. We're gonna chart these out. Present, singular, 1, 2, 3, first person, second person, third person. Our singular and our plural, our imperfect. Singular, 1, 2, 3. Plural. And then our future. Singular, 1, 2, 3. And our plural. All right, let's plug in our stem. Our stem is recit, 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 recit. Ooh, I didn't give myself much room over here. Oh dear. Oh dear. Always give yourself more room. I never do it. Recit. Okay. Now what? We need our vowel, our thematic vowel, that A. We don't need it in the first person singular. That is given to us. First person present active, or first person singular present active indicative does not need that A. Everything else gets that A. 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 Okay, great. Now in the present, that's all. Now we get our personal endings. In the first person singular, the personal ending is O, recito. Recito, I read aloud, I recite. In the second person singular, the personal ending is S, recitas. You read aloud, you recite. Third person singular, the personal ending is T, she reads aloud, she recites. In the first person plural, the personal ending is mus. We read aloud, we recite. In the second person plural, the personal ending is tis. Y'all read aloud, y'all recite. In the third person, the personal ending is nt. They read aloud, they recite. So that's it for present. Present is done. In your imperfect and in your future, in the first conjugation, you have tense indicators. For imperfect, it's BA. For future, it's BO, BI, and BU. So BA all around in imperfect. Okay. Singular and plural, first, second, or third person. And then it gets the personal ending. So bomb, recitibomb, that is I was reading aloud, I used to read out loud. Recidibus, you were reading aloud, you used to read aloud. It was reading aloud, it used to read aloud. Must, we used to read aloud, we were reading aloud. Recidibatis, I did not give myself enough room. Y'all used to read aloud, y'all were reading aloud. And recidibant, they were reading aloud, they used to read aloud. In the future, BO is the first person singular, and the rest up to third person plural get a BI, third person plural gets BU, and then you get your personal endings. Okay, so recitabo, I will read aloud. Recidibus, you will read aloud. Recidibit, he will read aloud. Recidibimus, we will read aloud. Recidibitus, y'all will read aloud. Recidibant, they will read aloud. So what do we have here? We have recitas. Recitas, that is second person singular in the present. So you read aloud or you recite. So let's put that in there. That is in our little relative clause, our clause within a clause here. You are the subject because you is the subject of the verb. It's conjugated for second person singular. That makes you the subject of the verb there. So you read aloud, you recite. Actually, read aloud will work. You read aloud, you recite. So what is this sentence? The book which, referring back to the book, which you, we'll put punctuation in there as well, which you read aloud, comma, mine is, or if we were going to make it, you know, better for English, more coherent in English, is mine. Okay, so there is the translation for the first clause. Liber quem recitas meus est, the book which you read aloud is mine. Okay, so there's the first clause. Let's move on to the second clause. Sed cum male eum recitas. So sed, make it work. Sed cum male eum recitas. So sed cum male eum recitas. That's the next clause here. So our parts of speech, we have a conjunction. So that conjunction is said, which means but, however. Cum, so the cum is generally a preposition. It goes with ablatives, meaning with something. But when you have cum without any, and I think we can fit it on here. When you have cum without an ablative, then it's working as sort of kind of an adverb or kind of a conjunction, sort of somewhere in between. So if you have it without an ablative and with a verb, well, I guess I don't need to pull it that way, and with a verb, with an indicative verb, so a verb in the indicative mood, like we have been working on. We haven't really been working on the subjunctive yet. When you have cum without an ablative, with an indicative verb, you have what's called a temporal cum clause. Okay, a temporal cum clause. Okay, so cum here is introducing a temporal cum clause. Cum is going to take on the meaning of when this thing. So cum will mean when, so when ... this. It's not quite a result clause. It's not, because the result clause requires different grammar. It's not an if-then statement, because that requires protasis and hypothesis. It's just a temporal, when this, when ... this is. Okay, so you'll see how it comes together a little bit more when we have translated it. So just understand that when you have cum, you have, and you don't have you don't have an ablative. This right here could be an ablative form, but is an adverb. It's not an ablative form of malus, mala, malum. And you have a verb that is in the indicative mood. You have a temporal cum clause. So male here is an adverb that means badly, poorly, etc. So it's an adverb. This is a pronoun. And which pronoun is it? If we pull out our, we know that this is a third person personal pronoun. When we pull out our chart and we look through, we know it can only be, this is the only form that matches eum. It can only be a masculine singular accusative form. This is a masculine singular accusative form. So what could it be referring to? What is the him? Well, in our previous clause, we were talking about the book. It's a masculine singular, and that is what we are referring to again. So the book, you use a pronoun in Latin to refer back to it, where in English we would say it. Like if I was talking about the book, I would say, this book is mine, but when badly, we know that this is you read the book, or I would say it. Latin would refer back to the, and other languages that are gendered like this would refer back to the book as him. You would refer to the book as him because that book has gender in that language. Our verb is, again, recitas, so you read aloud, you recite. So what does this clause here say? But when, and again, you is the subject here, it's the subject of the verb. When you read aloud, recite him, the book, badly. Okay, that's the middle clause here that we've translated. Now we have the last bit, which is incipit esse tuus. Incipit esse tuus. Incipit esse tuus. So we know these two are verbs. And when we have a, an infinitive here, with another verb, we have what's called a complementary and not complet, like I. We have a complementary because it's not flattery, it's completing. Complementary infinitive. We're using the infinitive to complete the meaning of our inflected verb. So this verb that we're using here is, we'll use the other side of this to conjugate this verb. The verb we're using here is incipio. Let me get this. There it is. Okay, so the verb is incipio. Get that right there. Okay. There. So incipio. Incipere. Incepi. Inceptum. Looking at the first principal part and the second principal part, what do we notice? IO in the first principal part, ERE in the second principal part. We have a third IO here. Okay, so it's a third conjugation that uses IO in the first principal part, a third IO. So there's some tricky business we have to do there to conjugate it. I will lead you through, no worries. So this is a third conjugation. What does it mean? Incipio means to begin or to start. Okay, to undertake. And what do we have in, how do we find our stem? We take our stem here, we ignore our terminal ERE, and this right here is our stem. Because this is not a first conjugation or a second conjugation, we have to do something different here than use the thematic vowel. So let's get set up with our present. Here's singular, first, second, third. We'll get our chart set up, and then we will talk about stem and vowel, how we do it. Plural, here's our imperfect. Singular, first, second, third person, blue, blue, blue. Oop, nope, you're over here. Singular and plural. And then our future. Singular, first, second, third person. Flume, 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 bloop, bloop, and plural. Okay? So let's go ahead and plug in our stem, which we know is incip in the whole thing. Incip. 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 Okay. Incip all around. In the present tense here. So our first principal part, incipio, gives you the first person singular. So for what do we do for the rest though? Well, we don't use the thematic vowel. What we do use is that I. So everything is going to get that I in the first or in the present tense, okay? So incipi all around. First person singular is going to get its O ending. Incipio, I begin, I start. Second person singular, incipis. Incipis. Oh, that's third person singular there. See, third person singular. In she starts, so incipis, you start, incipit, she starts. First person plural, incipimus. We start in, oh, this one got a little bit, did not dry very well. Incipitis. Stumbling all over the place. Incipitis. Y'all start in, oh, that's not supposed to be it. That's supposed to be a U. There we are. It's a U. Everything gets an I except for third person plural. Incipiunt, they start. So IO in the first person singular, IS in the second person singular, IT in the third person singular, IMUS in the first person plural, ITIS in the second person plural, UNT in the third person plural. Incipis, incipio, incipit, incipio, incipis, incipit, incipimus, incipitis, incipit. In the imperfect, what you do is you also use that I again. I, but you don't just use the I. In the imperfect, you also incorporate the E. Okay, so in the present, you only use the I. In imperfect, you use the I, which is in the first person or in the first principal part, and the E that's in the second principal part. Second principal part. My goodness. I don't know if I can speak. I don't know. So there you have two vowels. Present has one vowel. Imperfect has two vowels. Imperfect also has its tense indicator because it's going to have that with all of them. So BA, 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 BA. And then comes the personal ending. So incipie, bomb. I was starting, I used to start. I was beginning, I used to begin. Incipie, bas. You were starting, you used to start. You used to begin. Incipie, bat. He was starting, he used to start. Incipie, bamus. We were starting, we used to start. Incipie, batis. Y'all were starting, y'all used to start. Incipie, bat. They were starting, they used to start. Man, that looks like messy. Oh boy. So what do we do now in future? Same thing, everything gets the I, and everything gets the E, except first person singular, which is going to get an A instead. And then you put in your personal endings. We're in third IO, so there are no tense indicators for future. Only imperfect has a tense indicator. So incipiam, I will begin, I will start. Incipies, you will begin, you will start. Incipiet, it will begin, it will start. Incipiemus, we will begin, we will start. Incipietis, y'all will begin, y'all will start. Incipient, they will begin, they will start. So now what's in our sentence is incipit, which is the third person singular in the present. Incipit. He, she, it starts. Oh, there we go. Incipit. So before the subject of the verb was you. This time it is a third person singular, it. We're going to go ahead and assume, because the only other third person singular thing we've had so far has been with respect to the book. So the book is the only other third person singular thing we have. So the book is going to be the subject of this verb incipit. The book, it begins. It begins, and then essay here is the infinitive for sumesse, to be. It begins to be. It begins to be, or it becomes. Take those together, you make becomes. Tus, this is a second person personal pronoun. So we have our second person possessive pronoun. Possessive pronoun. Second person possessive pronoun. So we've had the first person possessive pronoun. Now we're having the second person possessive pronoun. Just like first person, it has a masculine, feminine, and neuter, a singular, and a plural. So let's put it on here. So there's tous, which is the masculine singular, tous, tua, feminine singular, and neuter, tum. This is also a first, second declension adjective. So it's going to decline like a first, second declension adjective. Tus, tua, tum, tui, 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 tuo, tui, tuo, tuo. There we go. In the accusative here, tum, tuum, tum. And then in our ablative, tuo, tua, oops, tuo. In the plural, we have tui in the masculine plural, tui in the feminine plural, and tua in the neuter plural. In the genitive, tuorum, tuarum, tuorum. In the dative, tuis, tuis, tuis. In the accusative, we have tuos, tuos, tuos. In the ablative, we again have tuis, tuis, tuis. Okay, so yours, yours, of yours, to, for yours, yours are the direct object, by, with, yours. So what's the form that we have in the sentence here? We have the masculine nominative singular form, tous. So this is a little bit of a technical predicate nominative. It's more of an imply because the book is not explicitly stated, but we know that the book is the subject of incipit here. So the book begins to be or becomes what? It becomes yours. So let's put the whole sentence together with all of the clauses. That first clause there was, oops, sorry, I got a little bit of sheets everywhere. The first clause is liber quem recitas meus est. The book which you read aloud is mine. Okay, so we'll put that there. The book which you, punctuation in so that we have it, there we go, which you read aloud is mine. Okay. Sed cum male eum recitas. Sed cum male eum recitas. But when you read aloud, or recite him the book badly. But when you recite, we're going to put it, because we're going to kind of do a little bit of a free translation while we're putting it down, and it just sounds more coherent in English if we use it. When you recite it badly, incipit esse tus. Incipit esse tus, the book begins to be or becomes yours. The book becomes yours. So the book which you read aloud is mine, but when you recite it badly, the book becomes yours. So in other words, one of the reasons why Marshall is one of my favorites is he writes a lot of kind of mean stuff, but really quippy mean. He's very clever, he's very biting, and what he's saying here is that you know, when you're reading my stuff out loud, you are butchering it so badly that you are changing it completely. I want nothing to do with it. You are making it something that it is not, completely transforming it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it will inspire you to look at more Marshall, because like I said, Marshall is just a dang delight. Voile te discipuli.